Hey guys, today on Ugga Dugga Bois, we're going to be doing a thermostat replacement and putting coolant in our 2009 Jeep Patriot front wheel drive with a 2.4 liter engine. For this project, you're going to want two things. First, we're starting off with our coolant. Today we picked up some peak coolant that is a 50-50 mix, so we do not need to add any coolant or water. It is all set to go. And we made sure that it is for this vehicle, which it is for a Chrysler from the years 2000-2012, and we're 2009, so that works perfect. And we got it for North American vehicles, just allows us to handle a little bit of cooler temperatures. And then second off, we have a Murray Plus thermostat right here. And the part number for this 2009 Jeep Patriot is a 65703. Now to start this project off, you're going to want to locate your hood latch, which on the Jeep is right here. Then come around the front of the vehicle. You're going to have to lift it up a little bit, and there should be a little latch in here, which the latch is right here, as you can see. So you're going to reach your hand in, push it that way. Your hood should come right on up. And make sure you put a holder in there so it does not fall on you.
Alright, so for your first step, you're going to want to remove your battery access, which is right underneath your air intake. That just pops out. Then you're going to want to get to your air tube.
Impact!
Move your sensor, little red switch right there. So you're going to flick straight back towards your battery. You're then going to take, there's a little push in button you're going to push. Just pull that off. Just stick it down there. You're not going to need that.
Next, you're going to want to loosen this clamp to your air box. Loosen that. You don't want to fully take it off, just enough that you can pull the box off.
That wiggle out. Just wiggle right out like that. You're then going to want to take off your engine cover.
Just a nice simple pull. There is nothing that needs to be unscrewed. Just be careful. You don't want to break anything. Comes right off.
You're then going to go to your tube.
Right here, as you can see, it is coming right off the air box. Now you're going to want to loosen that up just a little bit. There we go.
And then you can pull right off. Your hose clamp can go back onto your tube so you don't lose it. And get tightened onto the tube.
We always do recommend it. You don't want to do a full tighten on it, but just enough so it does not fall off. There we go. Then we'll also do it on this tube, so we don't lose it. There we go.
You're then going to move to your air box. You're going to take off the one side first with the tube. Come right out. Nothing has to be taken off of it. Your air filter will come right out exactly with that. And while you're at it, might as well check your air filter. This one isn't too bad at all. It looks actually rather well. So
what you can do is you can actually take it up to the light. So as you can kind of see through there, you can see through the openings. That means you're still good. Where do you want this?
Next step, you're going to want to remove the rest of the airbox. It is just like your engine cover. Just pulls right out. Nothing has to be loosened or anything.
Now we do recommend doing this in a warmer environment, just because if it is super cold, you know, tendencies or plastics may break, so it is better for them to be a little bit warmer so nothing breaks on you.
And as you can see, right down here is where we're going to be working today. This is our thermostat housing area for your coolant. Our temperature is going to be, our thermostat, mind me, is going to be right here, where we're going to be getting into. So what we're going to be taking off is our hose here. Most likely our hose down below allow us access to open up, get the thermostat in there, gasket, which you're going to need. As you can see, there's a slight coolant leak, which has been leaking out coolant, reason why heat hasn't been working. So your best bet is to clean off the surface after we take all of this out, and we will show you that right now.
Now, before taking any of this off, what you're going to want to do is check your coolant first. So you should have coolant in here. These are actually your coolant lines. So we're actually going to check right in here. You just got to push it down. You want to locate your radiator cap, which is this nice silver thing right here. Do a nice hard push down, do a full turn. Make sure your car is cool when you do this, because if it's warm, it actually expands and could blast all over you, and that would be no fun. So as we can see, we actually had a coolant leak, so there's nothing in there. So we should be fine. We're not quite sure how much will come off. You're gonna want to put this cap back on. Make sure you push down tight. There we go. But we still would advise, we did put cardboard underneath, as you can see. And then I will actually be ready with just an old oil container, so if any coolant does come out, we can catch it. If you do have a lot of coolant in the system, expect you will probably spill a lot, since this is where a lot of your coolant does sit. So you're just gonna wanna get right in there. You're gonna wanna push that hose clamp down, and then you're gonna try and pull it back. Sometimes these can be rather tough to do. There we go. So you just want it far enough off that's not still on that housing. That should be plenty far enough. And then you're just going to gently try and wiggle it off while making sure that you do support this so you do not break that.
I don't know, you're gonna have to have that tub. Like that, like that.
And don't be afraid to take your time on this. And there was a little bit in there. That's alright. So as you can see, the rest we are just trying to get in that container so it doesn't pour all over the place. So next you can see we're getting off the second hose clamp, trying to loosen that one up. As you see, got it plenty far enough back.
You're then going to want to get to your 3 bolts on your temperature housing. There's one right back here that you can see. These are all going to be your 10 millimeter. I'm going to write down here. And there's going to be one right below here, right underneath here.
Yep, so you can see those 3 bolts right there. And the final one being right back in there. So we're going to go take those out real quick.
Alrighty, so after getting our 3 10 millimeter bolts out, there was a tube in the far back. I'm not sure if we can get a good camera angle at it, that it was sealed to, so you're gonna be pulling at it, you're gonna be like, what the heck, why isn't it coming off? You gotta keep tugging at her. She will eventually come loose, as we do have it loose now. I can move this out of the way, we can probably get a better angle.
You will lose a lot of coolant out of that, so be careful. Yeah. You can actually see it right down in there. Yeah. That's where we're still connected.
And right there is your temperature, or your thermostat, I should say, in your temperature housing. So all you're gonna literally do is grab it, and it should just pop right out of there, just like that. You can see there's actually coolant sitting right inside the housing right there. And that is what she's gonna look like.
All right, what's next step?
All right, next step is gonna be taking a little painter's or putty knife, which we have here. You're gonna wanna clean up around there, all the junk out of there, get that all out of there. Honestly, since we're just got it out here, might as well go around all the other places too. There's no reason not to. Clean it all up. Gives you a lot better seal with not having all the junk in there. Not losing coolant like we were before. We'll take our trusty old toothbrush, because why not? Scrub it around a little bit. As you can see all the dust flying around off there. Clean it up. Get anything that may have potentially fallen in, trying to get it out of there. And then you can also, since you're in here, clean up around the plastic as well, because as you can see, there's a whole bunch of stuff all in the plastic. We have our toothbrush, but we also have plastic bristles on what would be a wire brush, but I would not recommend using metal wire on a plastic. So your plastic wire brush. As you can see, there is still coolant inside the housing, so you can drain it all out. We're just gonna leave it and we're gonna save as much as we can. But if you can try and not spill it all out as you're doing this, that'd probably be preferred by everybody. Alrighty, so as you can see, that looks pretty good. Do a little bit of an inspection on it, make sure the housing looks good. Since you have it out, you might as well make sure that you have nothing broken or anything, any other places leaking out of a gasket or a seal or anything like that. Which it looks pretty good, so we'll now go on to installing our temperature. So after you take your old one out, this is your old one here, you can definitely see the wear on that seal. You can see how bad it was, why it was leaking, because yeah, it's not supposed to be like that. You're gonna wanna compare the two, make sure they look pretty much the same. As you can see, these ones are pretty much identical to each other. Of course, they're different models, as this one probably was done by Chrysler, so of course it's gonna be a little bit cheaper done. As you can see, the seal on this compared to the seal on this is a lot different, and this one is a lot worn down more than this one, of course, because this one's newer. Compare the backs, just make sure everything looks good. And then as you can see, you have your little tongue sticking out there. That's gonna technically, just gonna take your thermostat, keep her right inside there, just like that. As you can see, take her, push her in, she should seal.
So your next step, once again, is then going to be taking all of those 3 bolts and putting them back in. So we push the rear pipe on. You can see right now we're putting all the bolts on. At first you're just going to want to kind of get them tight, and then it's going to be like your tire. You're going to want to kind of go back and forth from one to another, just slowly tightening them down. That kind of allows it all to be nice and evenly pressed down, so you don't have one spot that gets super pressed down in the beginning and one, so don't get any weird angles that messes anything up. So as you can see, we got that bolt in, and then these 2 bolts are in. That should be all set. As we look, it's nice and clean down in there. I can't move that, as you can see. Nice and clean, it's all pressed against there, so it should have done a good job sealing, and we'll find out. And you put your sensor back on just so that's out of the way. And then next is going to be reinstalling your coolant lines or your coolant pipes. So you're probably going to want to do it, as you see too, we did a cleanup job. Make sure tried to get as much coolant as we could. Now we're going to try and get the lower coolant pipe on. It should be relatively simple.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Alright, there you go. So you're going to want to put your bottom tube on now. Just slide it back on. Once you get started, just going to wiggle it right on. There, that goes on beautifully. And then just like when you took it off, you're going to take your little hose clamp right there. Just move it back till you'll be able to see kind of the spot where it already was in the previous times. Just kind of wiggle it back and get it there. Beautiful, that's the bottom one off. Next we're going to move to the top one.
This one should be really easy, and there should be no coolant inside this one.
And you can kind of see, I don't know if you can see, but on this one, you might see it on your car, it kind of looked a little bit darker where the original tube was and a little bit lighter, so you kind of know how far you need to go. And then finally put this hose clamp back on. just like so. Alright, so next putting the air box back in, same way you took it out. Like that, you just push it right in, pops right into place. Next, grab your air filter, make sure your fins are going to be facing this way, pointing in. Make sure you get a nice good seal on that. That should sit in there real nice like. And then put the top of the air box in there. Make sure that the filter doesn't move and get caught in there. As you saw, a nice little pop in. You'll see there's these little side latches that get kind of caught in there. Should fit right into there. Latch it on back down. One in the front. One in the back.
On the back so it's a pain.
There we go. Nice good seal. And you can loosen this. Make sure you do put your sensor back on. Loosen that up. Put that back on. You should be able to kind of see a mark again of how far on it should go. There we go. Nice little pop in there. Get that nice and tightened up. Very nice. And then loosen up this clamp on your bleeder hose. There we go. Finally pop that right in by the oil cap again. And tighten this down. Very nice. And then finally you're going to want to put the little engine cover back on. And just like the air filter box, kind of just pops right into place. There you go, you can kind of hear them popping in. It should be kind of nice and firm on there, it doesn't move much. And then finally the battery cover. Should slide in right in there. Push down and twist these tabs. That should be set. Now, gonna add some coolant, test it out, hopefully it doesn't leak. Final step, once again, is to locate your radiator cap, pull that off, and it's preferable to use a funnel. You're gonna want to slowly pour your coolant in there. And then here we'll do about half the container, and then we will just do a quick check for leaks, make sure that we're not just pouring it out elsewhere. As you can see, it's going right in there. Alright, almost. Yep.
You can see it's pretty much sitting there, so that's usually a good sign.
Yep.
Taking in the engine, taking it where it's going.
Yep, so it will slowly be taking it in. You might have to, once it does start filling up, take it a little bit slower, and then we also will start the engine just to make sure that it is fully inside the engine, inside the water pump, and all the coolant lines and radiator anywhere it needs to be, just so then. Because otherwise what can tend to happen, especially with new engines, but if you put some in and then you start it up, it's not everywhere else, so then it goes there and then you lose it. So you do want to make sure you start up the vehicle and that you're fully flushed and got coolant everywhere. So once again, as you can see, it is all now gone, so we'll start filling it up again.
At all. Anywhere, at least we're going to get here.
Yep, we don't see or hear any leaks there. Come around.
From above.
All the work that we did, nothing from those lines. You want to make sure thermostat housing, everything looks good, so we'll continue. Oh, it's got a little fold there. As you can see, it's slowly bubbling down.
That's a very good sign.
Yeah, looks like it filled up, and you don't have to be completely worried. Yes, it is filled up here, and as I did say, it does expand when it heats up, but that is the idea of this hose. So you do want it full up to here, and if it does expand or you have a little bit extra, it'll go right down this tube right into your reservoir, so that's all fine. And this looks like you might be ready for a start.
Looks like it.
And then also the idea of the start too is your water pump will pressurize everything, so if you do have any leaks, that water pump will kind of push water out and you'll have problems. So don't just fill it up and expect to be ready to go. You do want to do a full check on everything. Now before starting the car, make sure that it is in park, but we are going to start the car. Just make sure, see if it takes any more in. And as you can see, it's actually taking it in right now. And I don't want to get it pressurized. We'll let it run for just a moment. Get that fully tightened down there. Make sure we're not gushing out anywhere. So far it looks like we're good. Do a check in here. Everything looks dry, no hoses blew off currently. Finally, you're going to want to close your hood. Drop from a nice low distance, make sure it is fully closed. Lift it up, shouldn't move at all. And you're set to go.